What is up, Squared Nation? Welcome back to No Counters, No Combos, and today we're making our long-awaited return back into the battle chamber. Shout out to Ben, he's the player on the left going with Jiren, and I'm going to be testing the SS4 Bardock from the anniversary box that we just got a couple weeks ago. I'm going to start off by charging my black-green energy. Yes, this is a rainbow-colored deck. We are playing all 5 colors, multicolored black cards, and we're going to see how it goes. Ben's going to start off by charging his Zoray, giving him 1 yellow energy. I haven't actually seen this Jiren being played a lot lately. I definitely like his awakened effect of essentially not being able to take damage. I think it's got some lastability, allows you to get your Successor off when you need to. So it's going to be very interesting to see how I can kind of navigate around this little crux that I have to worry about when it comes to Jiren. But I'm very glad and very excited to be back and doing some commentary. This is my favorite type of content to do, just because we can kind of go over the plays and see how everything kind of unfolds. You know, it's a lot more difficult to pay attention to stuff while it's happening in the moment, especially with all the background noise, you know, from a live local and stuff like that. So I like to just kind of hone it in and try to dive into the thought process of the player and just kind of give you guys a good breakdown step-by-step of what you're seeing and what you can expect moving forward if you're planning on playing the deck yourself. So Ben's going to go ahead and activate Jiren's skills. He's going to take a life. He's going to play out, that's Casserale, and then Casserale grabs, I believe, a 1-drop Universe 11 from the deck. So it's pretty good, you know, being able to spam the board. You're in a Successor strategy, so being able to put your battle cards on the board without committing energy to it is really good. The only problem I have with Universe 11 is that they're all essentially just little guys, you know, 1-drops, 2-drops, stuff like that. So you really do have to put forth the effort to build up your board so you can Successor for 6 or 10 or 12 or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So, I mean, again, it's not a deck that I've played personally, so I'm not exactly sure if there's any merit behind it, but, you know, if it works for you, it works for you. You know, this is the great thing about Dragon Ball Super, where it's at right now in the meta, is everything's pretty much playable. So he's going to go ahead and play that Topo. I think that Topo is just going to kind of come sit there. It's a kind of yellow-green combination here with Universe 11, because Successor is yellow-green, so he's going to go ahead and shuffle. And let's see what he decides to do here. I will say, in my experience, I did play the Bardock deck at Locals. Just going to swing here at my leader. I did play the Bardock deck at Locals this weekend. I did decent with it. You know, there's definitely some changes I would make. I'm going to go ahead and take that life, go down to 7. But it's a very... what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say it's dependent on what your opponent's playing, so to speak, but as he taps 1 here to play Casserale to, I believe, scry the top 5 for another Universe 11 card. I think it's got to be a specified 1-drop. I'm not exactly sure, or maybe it's 2 or less. But like I was saying about Bardock, it's not so much... It's hard to explain because the deck is I might get in a little bit of trouble in the comments saying this. I feel like it's matchup proof, if that makes any sense. I don't think that seeing how the deck operates, I mean, obviously hand destruction is a bad matchup for everybody. Seeing how the deck kind of just operates, I don't think it's going to have a quote-unquote 100% unwinnable matchup. I don't think it's going to have a bad matchup to the sense of what we know of as bad matchups. But at the same time, it doesn't have a clear-cut strategy. As you can see, I charged my second energy here, giving me a black blue. So I'm at green, black, and blue right now. It doesn't have a strategy that it puts forth on its own. And this is just from what I've seen in testing. You kind of have to play according to what your opponent's doing, which is really interesting because it does have its own, like, once you're awakened, like, once you're post-awakened and you have all 4 colors in charge, you can kind of just do whatever you want. But until you get there, like, those early turns, like, those first, like, I want to say 3 to 4 turns, at least the way I've been playing the deck, you know, and obviously if I'm playing it wrong, then I'm just a scrub and I'm playing it wrong. But in those first 3 turns, it's a lot of just like, okay, what do I want to do? What's the best play I can make that's going to disrupt what my opponent is doing? Because there's nothing that I could do to further myself individually. So if you guys have come across that as well in testing this deck, please let me know, because I feel like it's one of those things where you're kind of, not that you're necessarily reacting, but the plays that you're making proactively all depend on what your opponent is doing, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to go ahead, just play out my strategy here. I'm tapping 2 for my Bardock Unison, which has been a really good card. That +1 marker to draw is really nice. It just lets you dig. This deck doesn't draw a lot of cards, so having Bardock help you get there is really nice. Spirit Boost effect isn't too bad, especially against high hand control. You can kind of get the Ribrians and draw apes out of the drop, send them to the warp. His Floodgate effect is really good in my opinion if you want a -2. But he's just there. He's a searchable Unison, which is really nice. 15k attacker. It's just a really nice card in my opinion. The leader skill when he attacks is really interesting. He's going to look at top 5 and he's going to grab an SS4 card. So that could be a battle card, an extra card, or a Unison with SS4 in its name. Add it to hand and shuffle the rest back into the deck. And obviously, of course, we all know he does get 2,000 plus power for each color that you have on your board or charge. So right now, since I have 3 colors, black is a color. He's going to get a +6k boost, so making him an 11k attacker. So that's kind of where we're at right now with this game here. Ben is just kind of deciding what he wants to do. I was able to clear some of his cards off the board. Knowing that his ultimate goal is Successor, I am going to have to make sure I pay attention to his board, because I don't want him running away with it and getting out of control to the point where I can't do anything. That Successor Jiren, I'm not sure if it's a 10 drop or a 12 drop. That guy is nothing to play around with. Like, he comes in and he just essentially wins the game because you can't interact with the guy. So I just want to make sure that I avoid that at all costs. So we're just kind of going through some clerical stuff here with Zoirei. Ben's going to go ahead and charge a multicolor and a Laza, so he's going to have 1 energy tap this turn. He's going to go ahead and activate Jiren's skill, taking a life, going down to 6. He's going to free play one of his boys here. Is that Coquette? I think that's Coquette. I do apologize for the glare. Oh, that's the Topo, the multicolored Topo. He's a 2-drop 16k attacker. When he's on the board, he goes up to a 4-drop. So it's just another nice successor tool there, because Jiren does allow you to play 2 or less Universe 11s from your hand. So let's see what Ben decides to do. I mean, he does have a decent amount of attack on board. He can kind of go at me offensively for life, or he can go into my Unison and try to neg some of the markers off. So let's see exactly what he decides to do here. If you guys are interested in playing SS4 Bardock, the hardest thing when it comes to building the deck, I think the deck is not the easiest deck to pilot, but it's also not the most difficult deck to pilot. I think the hardest thing with this deck is when you're building it, finding the right ratios. Like, it's so easy to just go ahead and jam 4 of every card in the deck and just say, hey, here's 48 cards and I have 2 options for text. But I don't think that's the right way to play it. Like, it's so hard because you have to play all the multicolor cards, but what's the right number, and which of the ones are you going to max out on, or which of the ones are you going to play 3 of? So it's kind of a little bit of a deck building challenge, because you want to be able to play your main strategy, but you also want to be able to support that strategy. So, having all of those multicolors in there is good for the leader, but once you get to a certain point, it doesn't really matter what you have in your energy. Once you have the 4 colors, it doesn't matter what more you put in there, because you've already unlocked all of his auto skills. So it's just interesting to see where it kind of goes and where it's going to take you. This deck does not need to charge more than 5 energy, which is really nice. The leader does untap 1 at the end of every turn when he's awakened, which is also really nice. So you can kind of get away with some things here and there if you want to curve out at 5, but how are you going to get to that 5, basically? Like, you want to have a different color in charge, as every turn essentially you want to charge a different color, because you want to be able to get to your backside, and then once you're on your backside you want to be able to plus as much as you can. But it might be a little difficult getting there depending on your ratios. So Topo is going to go ahead and swing up my Unison. I'm at 3 markers, so that Topo is going to take me down to 2 rather. I am tapped out, so there's no defensive options for me here. And obviously, Ben doesn't want to give me more cards. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't mind getting cards in this deck, because you kind of... It's weird. Like, you don't really utilize your life as a resource as much, but taking damage is not that bad, because there's really no other way of getting cards from your life to your hand without taking damage. So he's going to go ahead and kill my... my Bardock there by super comboing this Dr. Giro on the Topo, and then dumping, it looks like, another Topo into the drop area, making the Topo swing a 15k. I'll gladly let the Unison die. It's not a problem. I do play 4 copies in this deck. He's not essential to the strategy. He's just kind of like a support card. You know, it's not one of those detrimental things where if I lose it, I lost so much ground and I have to rebuild it. So it's really not that serious. But he's going to go ahead and tap one for Kunshi, which is a 1-drop Universe 11 that's going to basically give everybody on the board barrier. So now it's something that I have to be very careful with. You know, you are playing against a Successor strategy. Obviously, barrier is the best way to stick battle cards on the board. If you don't play offensively, you could just kind of leave them in active mode, and there's really not much interaction for your opponent unless they have the answers that deal with barrier. So I'm going to go ahead and start. We're going to draw for turn here. He's got a Topo. He's got 2 Topos in rest. One's a 16k, one's a 5k, and he's got his Kunchi and his Kesarali in active mode. This Goku charge here is a really good energy. But because his guys have barrier, essentially, I don't get any of my skills. But I do have my 4th color technically in charge, because on the front side, you know, it does count black as a color. So we're going to go ahead and SS4 call, limit 1 extra card, 0 cost. We're going to look at top 3. Out of the top 3 cards that we look at, we can add 2 Super Saiyan 4 cards to our hand, and we put that last card at the bottom of the deck. If we add 2 cards from Super Saiyan 4 call to our hand, we then have to bottom deck a card. So it's not a hard plus. You're essentially technically you're going even, because Super Saiyan 4 call is free, but you're not getting advantage. You're just seeing new. You're filtering, essentially. You're not drawing. You're filtering pieces that you need, which is good, because there are some cards that you don't want early. You don't want extra copies of Unisons. You don't want your win cons early. You know, you want to kind of draw into them later on when you need them. So you want to get to where you need to be. So the most important thing with this deck, like I said, those first 3 turns, probably your main concern is to get your charge, your energy in order, because you want to flip as soon as possible. That's just the way it is. You want to flip as soon as possible, and then you want to make sure that when you flip, you have your last color in your hand to be able to charge, because he doesn't draw on the Awakened side unless he has 4 different colors in charge. On the Awakened side, he doesn't count black as a color. It counts as a color, but it specifies non-black colors, so to give you your autos. So if you awaken at 3, that's fine. You can awaken at 3, but you're not going to draw until you charge that 4th color. So it does make it a little kind of, intricate is the word I'll use. We're going to go ahead and tap 2 for another Bardock Unison. Like I said, 15k pressure, 2 energies, not a lot. +1 marker to draw a card's really nice after we just Super Saiyan 4 called. So we're just going to see cards here. We're going to go ahead and combo. These combo cards, like the Goku and the Vegeta, are really good in my opinion, because they kind of get the engine rolling a little bit. So we're going to go ahead, combo this 5k, making him 20. We're going to go ahead and bean. So we're going to essentially tap 1 and untap 2, right? That's what bean does. Tried and true since set 1. So we're sitting at 25k with this Bardock. Okay? And I'm pretty sure Ben's going to take it. He's not going to combo up on this 25k. He's only got like 2 cards in his hand. So I'm pretty sure he's going to take it here. I believe we're swinging at Topo. So he's going to combo the 2 1-drops, which is fine, because we're clearing 2 cards as opposed to 1. Auto, when I use the Goku in a combo, if my leader card's, Black Saiyan, I could pay 1 black to play him in rest mode. And then we're going to go ahead and activate main off of the Goku. We're going to go ahead and... First I'm going to awaken, because I control the 3 different colors. So I'm going to go ahead, awaken, draw 2. We're going to go ahead and tap that last black energy to warp this Goku, and then when you send him to the warp, you can play a 2-cost SS4 from your hand. And then at the start of your next turn, the Goku comes back to your hand. So he's really good because he kind of tags out and plays bodies. We're going to play this Gohan, which is going to send the Topo to the warp and also remove markers off of Unison, which he does not have. But being able to have spot removal is really nice. And it's a 16k double striker. So we're going to go ahead and remove his last card that does not have barrier. off the board, so he has to restart his Successor total all over again. So we're going to swing 16k double to Jiren. He's going to snap, take that, and go to 4. He's in an Awaken range. We're actually set up really nice here. The good thing about this Bardock deck is because you do so much to the board, you can freely tap out knowing that decks aren't going to kill you because you're going to be at a decent life total. Like, there have been instances where I've awakened with 7 life. As you can see here, I'm now awakened, I have 6 life. So I'm okay tapping out because my opponent, you know, subconsciously is going to want to deal with my board, especially since I have a Unison and a 16k double striker established. So I kind of use my my board as like a guinea pig to prevent them from going at my leader, which is going to keep me at a high life total for the majority of the game, which is what I said earlier. There's not a lot that you do with your life. You're not playing Power Burst because there's no 1-drops to fetch back off the negate skill. You're not really playing any Self Awakeners because this leader has an alternative awaken condition, which since you have a high life total, you could probably utilize your life as another resource. So playing Self Awakeners probably isn't a bad thing to do, but it's definitely one of those things that we're going to have to experiment with and tweak as we go. I already have a secondary build that I'm working on. I'm probably going to be playing this deck for a little bit just because I want to make sure that I have a decent enough build to make it as viable as possible. So yeah, you know, we're going to be doing a special Team Wars event at Locals this weekend, so we're playing for fun. So I might just go ahead and saddle up again and just go ahead and play Bardock since my team is on yellow and blue. So I can just kind of play, you know, whatever color I want at that point. So we'll see what happens. But here's the thing, right? Ben's going to go ahead and he's just going to start pumping out, you know, all these U11 guys. And it's getting to the point where, you know, I might be in a little bit of trouble. That Jiren, I don't have an answer for. There's really no way I can deal with it. He's a huge attacker. I believe he's 40k or at least 35k. And when he's played, you can't interact with him. So, like, if he's successfully played, I don't think he has deflect or anything like that, but if he's successfully played, you can't negate him, you can't block him, you can't do anything. So I really need to be careful on what I do here. The only thing that I have going for me is that Jiren's at 3 life, so he's kind of almost there, but I also have to be careful because he could just activate battle, take a life, and not take damage for the rest of the turn. So it's one of those things where Jiren is low-key kind of good. If you can get your strategy off efficiently and Successor at a decent curve and not take damage the whole game, you might be in a pretty good spot. And yellow is defensively a good color because of all the extra cards that we have in the game right now. You know, Power of a Super Saiyan, Nimbus, Giant Ball, Vegeta's Final Flash. So there's a lot of good yellow cards in combination with stuff like Poutine that you can use to just kind of prolong your strategy. Jiren basically says we're going to get to turn 4, turn 5, turn 6 because of that ability on not being able to take excess amount of damage on your opponent's turn. So it's going to be a tough one. Let's see. I believe he's going at my leader. I did take that damage way down to 5, so I'm at 5 life right now. He's going to go ahead and tap 1 for another Kesserale. He's going to go ahead and grab a 1-drop from the deck, which is just, again, more Successor. You know, you have, let's see, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. He's got 10 on Successor on board right now, so I got to be super careful. At this point, it's just a matter of, does he have the energy to do it or not? It's not even, you know, it's not even so much of him not having the cards to go into the Successor. It's just, does he have the 4 energy to do it? So he's going to go ahead and pass turn here. His Jiren's sitting at 2, so I don't really have a lot of stuff that I could do here. Or his Jiren's sitting at 3, rather. We're going to go ahead and we're going to charge red. So it's going to allow me to neg something by 10k, but I can't because they all have barrier. But I have my 4 colors, so we're going to SS4 call. We're going to add 2. We're going to add 1 card. Well, we're going to add 2 cards to our hand. Bottom deck that 3rd card, and then we're going to go ahead and bottom deck 1 off the resolution, which luckily in this deck isn't that hard of a decision. Once you have all 4 colors charged, Your 5th energy is just whatever you want it to be, like whatever card you don't want to utilize. You want to keep a good amount of Gokus and Vegetas available to you as best as you can, because, for fusion, material for the Gojitas and stuff like that. But, their abilities of coming into play and bringing out other guys is really good too. So, for the most part, there really is no right or wrong charge after you have all 4 colors. Your first couple of charges will be dictated by what's going on in the game and just essentially what you have available in your hand. Like if you open up with an early Senzu Bean, you're going to want to get blue down as early as possible. So it's just one of those things, like I said earlier, the deck really functions as like a... I don't want to say defensive, because it's not that defensive, but it's a reactive deck. You're basically playing off of what your opponent is doing. 100% opposite of like what Baby does. You're just kind of waiting to see what they do before you make your plays. So we're gonna go ahead and do the whole combo here. We're gonna swing with the Gohan. We're gonna combo the Goku, make him a 21k double strike to Jiren. He's going to go ahead and activate Jiren's skill, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and tap the energy to play the Goku, and then I'm going to go ahead and tap another energy to send him to the warp and play the Vegeta. This is my favorite card to play because he's draw power. He essentially draws 2, bottom deck 1, and then you choose one of your opponent's cards from their hands, bottom deck it, and they get to draw. So it's not really hand destruction, but you could snipe out a combo piece if it's like something that they're holding on to, or if it's like the last defensive piece that they have. Ben doesn't really have a huge hand right now, so the cards that he has might be detrimental to his survival or whatever he needs for his strategy. So being able to get rid of one of those is a plus in my opinion, but the fact that Vegeta gets you to see 2 new cards, and he's also a 16k critical, is really nice. So, like I said, the Goku 3-drops, the Prismatic Burst Gokus and Vegetas are really good because they share that same effect of being able to combo them in, tap an energy to play them, and then bring something else out. Those are really nice in my opinion. I think the weakest color in the deck is red. I don't know, just for some reason, I don't get to resolve that many Bardocks. The Gohan Floodgate counter is really good, in my opinion, if you're playing against monocolored decks. But yeah, the Bardock just kind of falls a little flat for me, so I'm going to go ahead and swing with my leader to draw a card. Obviously, Jiren's not going to take any damage here, but at the end of my turn, I get to untap an energy because I have 4 colors charged. So again, it's really good. It kind of allows you to tempo out offensively and then always have the energy open for defense if you need it. And the fact that the deck plays Senzu Bean allows you to just manipulate your energy depending on what defensive options that you need. So yellow is probably the least utilized energy in the deck because it doesn't have a defensive counterpart. Green and red have your defensive cards in your counter plays and counter attacks, but blue is obviously, you need blue open for Senzu Bean. So yellow is probably the least utilized card, the least utilized color in the deck when it comes to defense, but it depends on your build. Like, you can definitely make the argument for Crusher Balls and Giant Balls and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see where this deck goes. So Ben here is got 4 energy open. He's swinging at my leader with Jiren, so I'm finally at 4 life, which is great because it turns my super combos on. It's one of the only games I played this weekend where I was at 4 life to turn my super combos on, just inherently taking damage. Most of the time, I would awaken at a really high life total, and I wasn't able to get myself to 4 to activate my super combos, so this is what I mean by tweaking. Like, I'm probably going to go back to the drawing board and play something different. So we'll see what happens. But for the most part here, we just kind of have to worry about the onslaught. I did -2 on my Bardock Unison, which is essentially it's the floodgate allows your opponent. It doesn't allow your opponent to attack unless they warp a card from their hand. So being that Ben doesn't really have a large hand size, we're going to go ahead and try to avoid taking as much damage as possible. Now, when this topo comes down, he has deflect, so I can't really counterplay this guy, but he's also, or he doesn't have deflect rather, but he's 25k, whereas my Bardock counterplay only hits 20k. So again, this is what I'm saying, like, the utilization is not that high. You know, it's one of those things where it's just like, oh, you know, I'm going to attempt to try to counterplay this big guy, but I can't because he's got 5k extra power. So it's just one of those things that I didn't really enjoy too much. But I feel safe because I know that at some point he's not going to be able to continue to attack me because of the floodgate effect from the Bardock Unison. So it's going to be interesting to see what he decides to do here. He plays the topo just to be able to rip a card out of my hand. He's going to go ahead and activate Coquette to make me pitch another card from my hand. And I believe he's going to pitch the Zoyray to play the Coquette, whatever. But I'm going to go ahead and counterplay that because she's definitely weaker than 20k. So it just gives me another body on board to be aggressive. Essentially, your Bardock for 1 red energy is a Denial of Hope. 20k or less goes to the drop instead of being played. So they are good, because Denial of Hope was a really good card when it was out. But for some reason, I don't know if it was just RNG or I just didn't draw them in the right situations. It just didn't work out for me too much. So Ben's going to go ahead and pass turn. I'm going to untap, draw for turn, and let's see what we decide to do here. I'm sitting at 4. Ben is sitting at 2 life. I'm just reading the leader here real quick to understand what the effect actually does and if there's any limitations to it. So we're going to go ahead and charge a 5th energy. We're going to get the Goku back to our hand, start a turn. We're going to charge our 5th energy here. And we're going to be off to the races, so to speak. So we're just kind of waiting for the turn to play itself out. Come on, dude. It's not that hard. Just charge. I forgot how long it took me to charge a card here. Essentially, this is going to be my kill turn, right? Because I know that I can't survive another turn, especially since he's going to Successor, and I really can't activate the floodgate on my Unison again because I'm only at 1 marker and I don't have something to feed it to. So I'm going to go ahead and charge a 4th green energy. He doesn't have a skill because there's no Unison on the board. Basically, when he's charged, you can remove a marker from a Unison that has 3 or more. We're going to uptick our Bardock Unison to draw a card, and we're just going to immediately feed it because why not make him 3 markers, but he's essentially useless at this point. So let's see what we decide to do here. Bardock into leader, auto draw. Let's see. We're going to tap a red for Champa, giving Bardock double strike. And then we're going to go ahead and Senzu Bean to untap that red. So we're sitting at 20, 30, 35 double strike to leader. He's going to go ahead and activate battle on Jiren, so he will not take any more damage from my attacks this turn. But that's okay because I have the boy in hand. I have the 10-drop Gogeta. As long as I pitch 2 materials, a Goku and a Vegeta from my hand or board, I can play this guy for 5 energy. And basically, he just comes out and does a whole lot. So if you have... He does an effect for every color that you have in energy. So if it's blue, you draw 3 cards. If it's green, your opponent discards 2. If it's yellow, you rest something and negate its skills. If it's red, you burn 1 damage, which is exactly what I did for game. And then if it's black, you warp 2 cards from their board. So essentially, I had to force him to activate Jiren's effect to go to 1, unless he was going to take the double strike, which I doubt. So I had to force him to take that 1 damage so I could play the Gogeta safely and be able to pull out the W that way because I knew next turn I was going to get destroyed on the clapback. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, this deck is not that bad. Shout out to Ben for being an awesome opponent, and shout out to Gamers Edge for hosting the most consistent local in the entire state of Pennsylvania. Those guys are great. If you're in the area, feel free to stop by. We play Saturday nights at 7 p.m. It's a good time. You know, we average about, anywhere from, 14 to 18 people a week, which is really nice. We're actually going to have a Team War event this weekend, so hopefully you guys can tune into the stream and check that out. But with that being said, we're going to get on out of here. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and please hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything No Counters, No Combos. We really appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Be there or be squared.